On today's episode of Strategy Simplified, we're exploring the new consulting firm trend of offering pre-MBA programs. These cohorts are an opportunity to gain exposure to what strategy consulting is in the summer before you start an MBA. So, if you're starting an MBA program this fall or are considering doing so in a future year, listen up. And after the discussion of pre-MBA programs, stay tuned for After Office Hours, where we hear Coach Nare answer a listener question from Mick, an undergrad freshman at Duke University. So let's talk more about these pre-MBA programs. What is it? What can I expect? How tough is it to get in? Why should I be interested? And how can I get ready? So, if there's been any trend in consulting recruiting over the past several years, it's been firms are moving up their deadlines earlier and earlier. And they're trying to give themselves more and more opportunities to get touch points and engagement with high quality prospective candidates. Now, hopefully you heard me off the top that the main audience for this podcast, for these pre-MBA programs, are incoming MBA students. But even if you're not accepted into an MBA program starting this fall, there's still value here if you're interested in potentially getting into one of these firms or considering an MBA program to get involved with in the future. Now, recruiting at the MBA level overall is very highly structured. And for many, many years, it was rather predictable in terms of its timing and the level of competition to be able to recruit into various firms, etc. But over the past few years, and really accelerated by COVID, firms have been trying to fill up their classes faster, to break up recruiting into more rounds, to try to have these additional competitive programs for people to come and experience, kind of as small intensives. One constraint that these firms, and not just consulting firms, that all companies that want to recruit MBA students through that structured on-campus recruiting process, one constraint that all companies have are the career service kind of blackout rules that many schools have. Not all schools have this, but most, if not all, top programs black out the first several weeks, if not the first couple of months of your time, your official time on campus as you start your MBA program, saying that firms and companies are not allowed to recruit you. They're not allowed to do events on campus. They're not allowed to hold interviews on campus. You get a dedicated period of time to focus on, engaging with the new culture of your MBA cohort and the academics of your classes, and getting your resume ready and kind of preparing you to think about how you're going to tell your story through, the networking and behavioral interviews. And it gives a chance at the beginning of the school year for career services, career management center folks to teach you these skills and to establish, formatting structure for your resume and how to tell a star story, etc. So it's really interesting to me that, these top consulting firms have decided to not only move up their recruiting process kind of right after that blackout period, which is what's been happening over the past couple of years, but they're actually more officially starting their recruiting process even before your program begins. In this way, they can kind of get around these blackout periods that happen on campus and get a chance to meet you sooner. Recruiting is the engine, is the lifeblood of any consulting firm, right? A consulting firm's main capital are their people and the knowledge that they have and create over time. So the ability to attract top talent, get grab that talent and secure a position for them as soon as possible. That's the goal of any consulting firm. So these pre-MBA programs, it's not, largely speaking, it's not a competitive process. It's not an internship. It's more like being invited to a cohort type experience where you will be given access to various events, largely virtual, where you could hear different members of the firm speak about various elements of their work and what it's like to be a consultant. Lots of openness and transparency, I'm sure, although giving you a boost to help you understand why their firm is the best fit for you. And also, there's a little bit of the beginning opportunity for them to get to know you as well. And in the consulting recruiting process, a firm getting to know you is inherently evaluatory. They want to have the best database of prospective candidates that they have. They want to get to know as many first years as they can to be able to make an educated decision about who should get those closed list summer internship interview spots. And then the next year, as a second year, who should get those limited, full-time offer interview slots. So, in terms of their pipeline, the funnel, they've extended and widened the beginning of the funnel. But hear me on this, especially at McKinsey, Bain, and BCG, it's not open to everyone. You have to be an admitted incoming student at a top school to gain access to one of these programs. So that's where the filter is. It's not open for everybody. So if you're not in an MBA program, you're not admitted to one this coming year, but you're thinking about maybe getting an MBA degree, investing in that in the future. One kind of positive silver lining of the creation of these pre-MBA programs is that basically, kind of for the first time ever, these firms, McKinsey, Bain, BCG, they have outlined what their top schools are. So, hopefully you'll check out the link in the show notes to the articles. We've got all the links together. You can read about these different programs. But you get to see who these firms consider to be the top MBA programs. And as you then move forward, if you're interested in consulting and you decide that that's something that at least you're going to really consider in terms of recruitment as you go into your MBA, well, you got to figure out what MBA program to choose first. And never before has it been so clearly laid out what the firms consider to be their target schools. Now, the list for each of these, on McKinsey, Bain, and BCG's pre-MBA program websites, they do all have a list of the schools that they are accepting applications from. Spots may fill up in these cohorts for incoming MBA incoming MBA students. But none of these look to be on the surface a competitive process to become involved in and to partake in. Instead, it's kind of an early access opportunity to get into info sessions and get closer to networking type opportunities with these individual companies. There seem to be real similarities here in that you're offered really a wide array of different topics that these firms are going to talk about. These events will be at different times during the day and during the week to meet different professional and during the summer, maybe familial obligations. It'll be kind of a pick and choose what you want to join. You won't be expected to join everything, but it gives them a chance to put themselves out there earlier. But beware, dear listener, if you choose to be a part of one of these programs, which honestly, I mean, it's mostly pros. There aren't a lot of cons. You should just be aware of the fact that you are going to have to start leaning into this process. Now, the main way that you're going to have to do that is the opportunity for especially BCG and McKinsey. It's clearly outlined that when you join and become a part of this experience, they're going to send you a digital assessment. And that digital assessment is going to become the first real assessment data point about you in the new recruiting file that they create about you in their, HR recruiting database. So for BCG, it's the Pymetrics games, right? 12 neuroscience-based games. And it's only going to take about 25 minutes to complete. Now, this is for folks who are interested in and preference their top offices to be in the US. But you're going to get you're going to sign up for this program for BCG Unlock, their pre-MBA summer program. And once you get accepted, you're going to receive an email to play the Pymetrics game, and you're going to have to do that within the next 48 hours. So these aren't the sort of things that you necessarily prepare for explicitly as you will for the case interview process, but you will want to make sure that you can carve out time and space to be able to do something like this, and that you make sure that you can read up on what's involved in this type of digital assessment. We've got articles about these, just so that you can wrap your head around what that might be like before you're game day ready to put your best into that. Same thing at McKinsey, right? McKinsey's pre-MBA program called McKinsey Early Access. They're going to send you McKinsey Solve. And it's the, kind of strategy problem solving game. And, they'll certainly like to say this is not something that you can study or prepare for. It's testing and measuring your innate skills. Yes. And it may feel helpful or comforting to you to start to look into that, to better understand a little bit more about that before it's sent to you, through email, and you're only given a limited amount of time to be able to access the game. And then once you start any of these types of digital assessments, once you fully click into it, and it'll warn you, but once you fully click into it, your clock starts ticking. You have to do the best that you can during that limited time frame. And then the score and the other ways that it assesses you, it's not only going to assess your capability and your ability to succeed in more of a kind of predictive way. It also, some of these digital assessments also try and do a little bit of a sorting, right? Think about it's funny what came to mind. I'm not a huge Harry Potter fan, just because, I never read the books. All of my family seems to be like crazy fans, but the sorting hat, right? Like, this process of figuring out where do you fit, where do you belong? And yeah, part of that is culturally speaking, do you fit into our firm or not? But even within our firm, what kind of role, what practice area, some of these digital assessments provide that type of predictive analytics, that sorting hat type view, as well as a quantitative score or scores that assess how good they think that you're going to be at the job overall. So you will likely not, throughout the rest of your recruiting process, be able to retake any of these digital assessments. So this is the official start of your recruiting process. Once you fill out your application and hit the button, and once they review your information, you're going to be sent one of these digital assessments. You're going to need to be ready to perform. Another way that you're going to need to be ready when you go into this experience is, participating in these events will give you knowledge of and access to members of the firm. It's going to give you an opportunity to perhaps within those sessions, be a part of small breakout room discussions, give you exposure to current active consultants in these companies. And you'll be really well served. It's recommended that you make the most out of those opportunities when you're given a chance to engage with any current member of the firm, and that you would follow up and you would try and really leverage those networking opportunities to get to know as many people in the firm in your intended area as possible. As you do that, you need to be well versed in what it takes to tell your story, how to network within a consulting context, and you need to have a polished resume ready when somebody asks for it. Now, you usually in a business school context get support on those things, but that doesn't usually happen until the end of the summer, but kind of that orientation period right before your program starts, or in those blacked out non-recruiting first 6, 8, 10 weeks of the academic calendar. Instead, now you're going to kind of be put on the spot earlier before you have that MBA career services training. So that may be a reason that you decide to engage with a partner like us here at Management Consulted to help polish your resume, or to help go through some of our platform information around, networking and consulting, creating and crafting a resume in consulting, etc.
We'll be right back after this quick break.
Have you ever heard a new digital trend and thought to yourself, okay, does this really matter? Asking the right questions helps you cut through the noise and get down to what matters most. I'm Jim Hertzfeld, host of the What If, So What podcast, where we discover what's possible with digital and figure out how to make it real by asking what if, so what, and most importantly, now what? Subscribe and listen, and together we can turn big ideas into tangible actions so you can get shit done.
We'll be right back after this quick break. Are you interested in applying to these pre-MBA programs? Then give yourself the best shot by working with the MC team on a custom resume edit. We perform the edits over 2 rounds. In the first round, we restructure, reword, and reformat, removing what's not relevant and emphasizing what is. Invariably, there will be context and metrics that we don't have access to, so we'll leave you placeholders and send the docs back so you can input that info. In the second and final round, we'll marry your inputs with the changes we've made to give you a submission-ready set of docs. If the inputs demand we reshape the story, we will. Get started today. The link to purchase is in this episode's show notes.
Another thing that I want you to keep in mind overall as you think about applying and engaging in a program like this is when you submit your application, you're going to have to preference your top offices. Most of these applications are going to ask you to preference your top 3 office locations. Now, this is an answer that you can decide to change later, but this is something that's worth you putting thought into before you hit that big button to submit. Now, this whole process about like what offices are you going to apply to? You should understand, especially if you've never kind of listened to any of our information before, if you're just getting involved in and thinking about consulting recruiting. At the end of the day, consulting recruiting is a very decentralized process. Yes, you may have to make it through a centralized process initially to be able to kind of pass through that first filter. But the decision makers that own the decisions of, kind of who's going to come and interview here in our office, and what roles are we going to give in our office or in our practice area or in our functional area. Those are made by the leaders of those parts of the organization. So honestly, I think it's a rather tribal process, right? And it's the leaders of the individual tribes that exist within a firm, within an organization, who are leading the charge, ultimately getting to make these decisions about who gets those limited internship spots, who gets those limited full-time offers. So overall in your networking process, as you go throughout this long, arduous recruiting journey, or it can be, right? you need to have a focused, targeted approach to network with and get to know the members of your intended tribe, whether that be, the practice area that you're recruiting into, or as a strategy generalist consultant, which is kind of that pot of gold for most people, a generalist strategy consultant role. Then your tribe, when you start at McKinsey, Bain, or BCG, is going to be your office location. And in this recruiting process, the members of that office are going to expect well thought out, solid answers around, well, it's not just why do you want to work here at Bain? It's why do you want to work at Bain in Chicago? It's not just why do you want to work at BCG? Why do you want to work at BCG where we started it all here in Boston, right? Not why McKinsey, it's why McKinsey Miami. It's a targeted process. You need to have targeted answers, and you need to have a story that makes sense. So don't just kind of whimsically, randomly choose and preference the offices that you're interested in. You really should take some time to look at the office locations that exist in each of these firms and think about, where does it make sense for you to work? Where do you want to live? Potentially post your MBA, right? And many of these applications will also force you to rank them or put percentages against these office choices. And then your name will end up on a list based, and given to those tribe leaders based on which office locations you preference. So again, it's a decision that you can change later, but it's something that you really should put thought into beforehand. So let's just briefly here then talk about a couple of the specifics of each of these programs before we close out. Bain, BCG, and McKinsey, we're going to keep our discussion today mostly focused on MBB. Although in the article, in which we've got a link in the show notes, you can read about some other firms' details as well. Bain's pre-MBA program is called Experience Bain. And Bain's got the largest list on, I was talking about the lists earlier in terms of eligible schools and getting a little bit of a view in terms of what their quote unquote kind of target schools might be. Bain's got the largest list here. And that's notable. So, go and if you think you might be on the bubble, go look at Bain's list first. And they've expressed that they are providing education, experience, and networking as a part of this, right? You learn about consulting, connect with affinity groups, meet our global teams, and prepare for the recruiting process. A personalized experience that will allow you to accomplish a lot before you step on campus. It's also notable on their list, they have a number of non-US schools, including University of British Columbia, University of Toronto, INSEAD, etc. The deadline for Experience Bain is May 1st, 2022. It's the first of this list. So you want to make sure that you jump in and get access to that if you are interested. BCG's program is called BCG Unlock. Go on the BCG website and it says, BCGers don't just unlock potential in their clients, they unlock it in each other. I would say that's on the cringy side of being okay. I don't know, it's cute, right? But summer learning program introduces incoming MBAs to the people, insight, and experiences that will enrich their skills, knowledge, and relationships as they set out on the exciting yet challenging journey ahead. What journey is that? That is the journey of recruiting. And then once you get the job, having to actually do the job. So their list is a little bit smaller than Bain's, but still there's quite a few schools in there. They do have some schools outside the US as well. And the deadline for BCG Unlock is May 2nd. So Bain was May 1st, BCG is May 2nd. There's some language in there about getting one-on-one mentorship, which that's a little bit of a unique value proposition in terms of the publicly available information about these programs. So that's notable. McKinsey's program is called Early Access. Early Access. And, very clearly saying, hey, McKinsey Early Access will introduce you to our firm before you start business school, helping you determine if consulting is the right career for you. Giving you the chance to build relationships with McKinsey consultants and a mentorship-focused community that we hope you'll stay in touch with as you start classes and begin the fall recruiting season. Well, of course they do. I mean, they want to get to know you. They want you to get to know them. They want to find the best people. Now, the eligibility for McKinsey Early Access is a little bit different. They've clearly stated it's inclusive to all backgrounds and provides a support system for those starting their MBA experience. Now, they do want to make sure that you are in a full-time program with an anticipated graduation date of 2024. Although dual degree program, matriculating students are also eligible to apply, but there's no limited schools list. This may be an opportunity for them to find highly motivated top talent outside of a limited set of target schools. By no means is McKinsey getting rid of their target school list, but this seems to be an opportunity that's more broadly open to matriculating students within the U.S. There's the asterisk, right? Incoming full-time MBA students in the United States. So, international, those going into international programs, want to look and see if you could get involved at Bain or BCG, but it's not going to be an opportunity for McKinsey Early Access. There's a couple of more specific pre-MBA programs as well we'll mention here just briefly. Both McKinsey and Bain have defined diversity recruiting pathways. So Bain has a separate pre-MBA program that's open to Black, Latinx, and Native American applicants. It's the Building and Supporting Excellence, or BASE, Scholars Program. It's held over the course of a week in various U.S. offices, and you can find out more information and the full link to that all in the same article, which is in the show notes. And then McKinsey's diversity pre-MBA program is called McKinsey Inspire, and that's targeted towards Black, Hispanic, and Latino prospective candidates, still incoming MBA students. McKinsey Inspire is a 2-day program run out of the New York, Chicago, and San Francisco offices, and that one has a separate application deadline, an earlier application deadline of May 6th. And if you're interested in potentially doing both, McKinsey has some guidance and recommendation on the website. Basically, the answer is, yeah, go ahead. You could do both. Here's the difference in what they are. If you are eligible for one of those diversity experiences, I would definitely say that you should lean into those and you should take advantage of that for sure. They certainly have different eligibility requirements. It's also often a more competitive process in terms of those, because the firms are putting more investment and resources towards those diversity recruiting programs, especially since they're in-person events, right? They have to have attendance caps. And so, there has to be a more broader filtering process of who they can invite to those. But they have different focuses, they're different experiences. So you'd want to make sure that you get involved in as many of these as possible. I would have loved to be a part of something like this as an incoming MBA student. So if you're eligible, I hope that you'll choose to do so. Welcome to After Office Hours, the part of the show where we answer your listener questions. If you'd like your question answered in a future show, make sure to send it in to podcast@managementconsulted.com. So for our next question, we have one of our management consulted coaches here to answer it for us, Nare Israelian. Nare, thanks for joining us for this question.
Thanks for having me.
So we have a question that's come into us from Mick. He's an undergraduate freshman from Duke University, woot woot, go Duke, here in North Carolina. And as an incoming freshman, he's really excited about the management consulting space, really excited about this job opportunity. What should he do as a freshman in undergrad?
Yeah. Well, Nick, I like the hustle. I like the ambition. I was the same way where I walked in freshman year and I was laser focused. I was going to get a consulting offer by the time I left. My path was a lot weirder than I expected it to be. I had 5 different internships. Neither of them built on each other. I was not remotely qualified for any of them. But I was able to spin a story. I don't know if I should say that, but I would say that first of all, the ambition, just keep looking for the next opportunity. I think the first opportunity out the gate is always the hardest to get, right? Because all the internships want you to have experience, but nobody wants to give you your first experience. I think startups are great for that one, to get that first experience through the door, since they're always looking for, young and hungry people. So I think the first internship, getting something going with a startup, even for a semester, is a great place to start. If you have any organizations that you're involved with, they might have an internship board of some sorts that might help you out. And that's what I did. I started a startup for a friend who gave me a referral. Then I interned at Morgan Stanley Wealth Management. I think that was a great place for me to start because it showed my interest in business overall. Understanding that, the summer before my sophomore year, I probably don't have too much experience to go do something with high levels of responsibility, but it still got me in the door. And I think, I hope I don't get in trouble for saying this, but I think having brand names on your resume does resonate. Unfortunately, this is a prestige-based society overall. And so having brand names on your resume does look good, and it does open doors, because no matter if you are interning in North Carolina and you're applying to whichever office, if you intern, for example, at Procter & Gamble or Nordstrom, for example, that I know is in the Southeast, if you intern at one of these big companies, people will know what they are. If you intern at Morgan Stanley, people will know what name stands out, and they might look for that in the resume, and it'll separate you. So I definitely recommend finding brand names. I also recommend doing things that you kind of just find fun, because at the end of the day, we just don't want to do things because they're what we're supposed to do. We always want to make this experience enjoyable. After that, I interned for Victoria's Secret for 2 years, and not really an internship, but I just threw parties for them in LA. That was a really fun experience. I got a ton of gift cards, I have way too much merch, but it was a really fun experience where I still got to build experience. I got to go to Victoria's Secret headquarters. That was a really fun experience. But it was something that I was interested in. I was interested in consumer products. And I was working with a team. It was a lot of fun. And, I don't regret the time that I spent there. After that, I spent a year working in brand strategy consulting. I was always very interested in branding and advertising as well. And so I wanted to explore that avenue as well. I did. It was great. It wasn't exactly what I wanted, but I'm happy I explored it. And then after that, I interned at the NFL in consumer products. And I will say, if a company like the NFL knocks, you answer the door. It was a really fun experience. I wouldn't have changed it for the world. But that was sort of my different experiences throughout undergrad. And then afterwards, I took an offer with BCG full time. And I think having the diverse experiences that I did created an interesting candidate profile that no other candidate was going to walk in with. And also, when you have a unique experience that the interviewers haven't heard, a ton of times, it always creates the, wait, you work for the NFL. Hold on. You tell me about that right now. Because it's a really fun thing. And so it creates a conversation topic. So, definitely try to go the consulting route, join consulting clubs if you can, show your interest up front. That always helps. And I think it's helpful to, get a taste of consulting to really see if you want to go into it full time, apart from just initial interest. And then you'll also have some experience in it. But at the same time, if your path does look like mine, where I did walk in laser focused, but I did also have some interesting detours along the way, know that if you keep the intention of going into consulting still in mind, that it's not like it's going to slip away from you in any way, as long as, you are taking proactive steps, right? We have to be interning. We have to be working hard, striving to be our best, and sort of looking for the next opportunity, and being hungry as undergrads if we want to come into consulting out of undergrad at such a young age. But always just looking for that next opportunity is what I would recommend. And if things take a detour along the way, ride the wave. If you want to get off, go back on track. But I don't think there's a right answer. And I wouldn't worry too hard as long as you are working hard and enjoying the work that you're doing.
Thanks so much for your perspective there, Nare. In addition to our discussion today, make sure to check out our article that provides additional information about these pre-MBA programs at firms outside MBB, including Deloitte, Accenture, and Kearney. There's a link in the show notes. And if you want to make sure you're ready to connect and network with consultants you meet this summer, you need to have a polished resume ready to go. Management Consulted's resume editing service can help. We work with you over 2 rounds of edits to make sure that both the content and format of your resume is MBB ready. And it's not just a resume review, it's a full editing service. Turbocharge your resume by working with us. You can find out more at the link in the show notes.